Hello, hello. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are joining us from. We are very happy to have you today. My name is Katie Porter. I'm a content and product marketing manager at Marin Software, and I oversee all of our webinars and content like this, what you're going to see today. So I'm very excited to have you with us. This is a topic that we're passionate about. Really, automating workflows for digital marketers is so important right now in that just many people find themselves with not enough people, not enough time, trying to grow revenue while also not breaking the bank in terms of resources, and it's not easy. So we're excited to have you with us. I'm going to be introducing our speakers today. We have Gregory Penten and Koen Diepenhorst. They both are uh, excellent experts in digital marketing. Greg joined Marin in May 2016 as a search consultant, and he now leads the customer engagement department. He's a father of two. He enjoys sharing his love of nature with his young family, and he tries to stay fit while running and cycling in Essex. Koen joined Marin also in 2016 in July of that year. He was a customer engagement manager, and after 5 years in that role, he joined Marin's product team. So he is now focusing on product development and search and optimization. Outside of work, he's also a father of two, and with his leftover energy, he loves long distance running and brewing his own beer. So we're very excited to have you with us. I will introduce the topic just a little bit and why we really decided that marketing automation and workflow automation was so important right now. So we'll go through a couple of statistics of what's just happening within the broader zeitgeist, and really what led us down this path of presenting this to you today. So statistically, 73% of employers have reported difficulty hiring talent this year. And it seems to be a recurring theme we're seeing with a lot of our clients, that just even if they find the right person for the right role, really getting them in that position is difficult as well. It's a very competitive market, so top talent is getting snatched off the market within 10 days of starting a job search on average. I know that I experienced this personally as before starting with Marin, that there were several roles that seemed like an amazing opportunity, and that's a difficult decision to make for job seekers as well. So it's not an easy time to be hiring or to be looking for work, because it's simultaneously a lot of opportunity and also a lot of competition. So automation really can start to fill those gaps, right? Or try to streamline the things that could be easier or need to be easier, so that your existing workforce can be as efficient as possible. And 78% of marketers say automation increases revenue, and 75% of brands using automation see ROI in under 12 months. So the investment really is worth it. And there's lots of different avenues that you can take automation, or different types of tasks that can be automated. We're going to go through kind of high level what is happening broadly in automation and what different types of categories and tasks can be covered in marketing automation. And then we'll get more into paid media management, as well, as that's our space and what we try to optimize and automate for our clients. As a quick definition, marketing automation is streamlining, automating, and measuring marketing tasks and workflows to increase operational efficiency and grow revenue faster. This is Marketo's definition. I thought it was a good one, in that it just covers what's the big picture, right? What's the overall objective of automating your tasks? So as I mentioned, this is the agenda that we'll go through today. Now that we've kind of covered what's happening broadly, why did we choose this topic, we'll get more into the nitty gritty. So in just a moment, I'll pass the mic over to Greg, who will cover how to identify gaps in your marketing operations workflow, saving time with the right operations tools. And then we'll move to Koen, who will speak about creating efficiencies in paid media management through optimizing, automating, and analyzing. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Greg.
Perfect. Thanks, Katie, for the introduction and for taking us through the agenda. So really, to start with, as you mentioned, we want to look at how to identify any marketing operation gaps in your different workflows, and then we'll drill down into different areas that can be automated before handing over to Koen there. So really, here is a list of the common gaps to look out for in your marketing operations, and I think you can kind of summarize them through a lack of governance. So this kind of making sure that each step in your marketing process has an owner in the team or in the business, and then there's different kind of knowledge-based gaps as well around inability to access knowledge, for example, that can be kind of countered by a centralized knowledge management resource to make sure that everyone within the team or the business can have access to knowledge and can transfer that knowledge to different stakeholders. Feedback loops as well are very important. Making sure that these are available means that you can challenge the status quo through that feedback and help improve processes and the teams using those processes. And failing to measure performance throughout the process also means that you don't know what's going wrong, what's going well, and what you can do more of. I think a couple more important ones here are gaps in personal performance around kind of limited workforce engagement. If people aren't engaged within their jobs, they'll stop caring, and that will negatively impact your team. So making sure that you address that and have a positive outcome for the different team members. And finally, any workflows related gaps around very complicated workflows, meaning that time is wasted for no benefits, having very repetitive manual tasks, obviously kind of boredom settling in, again, something that can be automated in favor of more creative and strategic items there, and then taking wrong shortcuts. If there are tasks which are quite repetitive, you might be tempted to do that, but there might be unintended consequences there, so which you then need to deal with. So those are kind of the common gaps that we see, and how do we get to identifying those? We usually recommend going through kind of a process mapping. So the idea here, and the definition by Conrad Tretter from Adaptive Ops is a good one, with the process mapping being referring to activities involved in defining what a business entity does, who is responsible, to what standard a business process should be completed, and how the success of a business process can be determined. So really, this is the first step to identify what kind of automation software your company needs, and you should be prioritizing for your team. So here, as from here, we'll want to analyze your workflow, and you'll want to look at how you can improve it. So there are kind of three main steps really to do so. The first one is implementing start, stop, and continue. And that just means that you would look at a single process, as the flowchart on the bottom here illustrates, and you can just analyze how efficient it is. And then you can see if there are things that you need to start doing, if there are things in that process that you should stop doing, and if there are things in that process that you should continue doing. And that way, by reviewing your process, you can very quickly identify these. Now, in order to do that, you need to map out a flowchart, because that will help you visualize the entire process. The flowchart will help you identify all the different steps and all the different players within that marketing process. And it also kind of creates a visual timeline of that process, and shows you how it all connects. And you could even just kind of add who owns what in terms of all these steps, and not only in terms of people, but also in terms of software that you might want to use for these different steps. So it's an important way to make sure that nothing gets missed when you're kind of reviewing your marketing workflows here. So in the example here, this flowchart is kind of showing you the potential process of building a search campaign, going from kind of what are your goals, what are your objectives and KPIs, understanding what your audience is, kind of doing your research, and then making sure that you have kind of a first draft, if you will, then reviewing, QAing that, making any edits, going to the next step, which would be kind of creating the creatives / ad copy for that, again reviewing and QAing, and then actually launching the campaign and optimizing it and monitoring that to then be able to kind of build any variants off that campaign, and you can repeat the flow. But really, once you have that flow chart and that start, stop, continue workflow in here, you can really look at the feedback that you're getting from those two items, and that will help you figure out for example, if your employees need more training on a specific topic, or if you should be changing how the procedures work compared to how they stand today. So if you're considering then implementing any new change, you can just use that flowchart outline to see how it will in fact impact different players and different softwares as well. Usually you'll easily see when there's a bottleneck or something gets disorganized, and you can just use that to really focus on saving time with the right automation tools next. So once you know kind of who owns what.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to jump in real quick. I forgot to mention, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat. We will cover them at the end. So apologies, Greg. I know you were on a roll. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
No, it's Katie. Thanks. Yeah, that's a good point to make as well. So yeah, no, all good, all good. Yeah, and so we were saying, you know, you've identified those gaps. How are you going to look at automating those tasks? So obviously that will be kind of unique to every business. And if you jump to the next slide, we'll see that kind of there is a list of different tasks that you can automate. The idea here is that you can automate those to, of course, free up time and also limit human error, hopefully with, as you mentioned earlier, Katie, kind of increasing ROI from those softwares as well. So here, those different marketing tasks that are commonly automated are around organic social posts, content amplification, paid media optimization, service bookings such as appointments or demos, for example, email automation for lifecycle marketing, and lead nurturing and kind of loyalty referral programs as well. Obviously, just make sure that you prioritize those based on what you actually need to automate and using those flows, those processes we saw earlier. So to achieve some of the automated tasks that we just mentioned, you need the right tech stack, right, to support those said automations. And there are many types of tools available for automating your marketing. Establishing kind of what software your company needs most urgently will of course be very different for every single company and even team almost. Once you know what the gaps are, you can then understand which ones are the most easy to automate and start incorporating the right tools to support those automations. We'd recommend looking into these automation tool categories, and this list really, as I said, includes the most common areas, so such as CRM, email marketing, account-based, social media management, pricing, loyalty programs, and advertising optimization management. So here really now I'm going to quickly jump into each of these tools to give some recommendations around what to look for and which ones to choose from, and kind of any specific questions that you might want to ask yourself when you go through the process of getting a new automation software. So in terms of CRM, customer relationship management software solutions, you'll need to strike the right balance between obviously the features that are available, usability, affordability. That's true for any new technology, but in particular of CRM platforms. The right software will really help your business be successful and grow without needing an extensive amount of time and effort to be associated to this task. But I guess here, you know, software that is simple is just the logical choice, the best choice every time. So once you know what your needs are and what you want, you can see and you know what features are in those tools, you can then decide to go for them or not. And I guess here a special shout out to HubSpot, with whom we have many custom integration in place for our customers, and do bear in mind that we can automate with any CRM tool, of course pending scoping by our professional services team. In terms of email automation, you might want to keep an eye out on a few additional features. So here, of course, we have listed the kind of top email marketing software. And really the top features that you want to look at would be A/B testing, to be able to send, you know, 2 different versions of an email to 2 different groups of prospects or customers, and then see how this performs, and that will allow you to optimize your email marketing efforts. HTML editing is also very useful and not readily available across all of the email automation programs, so make sure that the one you pick does have that, because it will just make it very easy for you to edit an email's code. template variety. So if you do a lot of email automation, a lot of email marketing, it will just make your life a lot easier if the tool has a rich template library for you to choose from. It will just help you design the look and layout and feel of those new emails very easily. Some email apps as well focus on just a specific industry. So if there's anything which is very specific to your industry, you might want to have a look at that, but make sure obviously that the tool you use tailors to your industry as well. Make also sure that you consider the pricing structure. If you could just go back one slide, please, Katie, just in terms of the pricing structure with your email app and how that affects your business over time. You know, if you start sending out more and more emails, how will that affect you from the pricing side of things? Or if you have a lot of contacts, do you have the right program there? And in terms of customer service, the customer support available to you will largely depend on the budget that you have available. So just bear those points in mind as well. In terms of account-based marketing, all of these account-based marketing tools could be a good match for your company. Ultimately, prices and features will vary greatly. So just take time to kind of look closely at each of these. For example, if you have a very mature strategy already, something like 6 cents would probably make the most sense, no pun intended, in terms of getting that software. But if you're looking at something which is a lot newer, or if you're going to be growing a lot over the coming 12 months, for example, software like such as Triblio or Bound would just make more sense here in that respect. In terms of organic social media management, obviously it can be tricky to manage multiple social media platforms. So making sure that you're able to manage all of them in one place just makes your life a lot easier without impacting the different tools. So where you can just kind of send an update for one platform and not another, for example, or both at the same time. The features here to prioritize for those softwares listed here would be around content creation, scheduling and auto posting to make sure that your message goes out at the right time to the right audience so that the relevant people can see it. What's called social listening, so kind of helping you to track what people are saying about your brands, your products, your services, and that will allow you to then engage with them on social media and pay attention to the trends so that you can actually then create relevant content off the back of that. And finally, content analysis and comparing, you know, do they show any specific metrics, any specific KPIs that are key for you? It is important to know what's been working in order for you to continue on that right trajectory. So it can be simple to do this with a monitoring tool as long as you've got that kind of all-in-one software. Some will combine all these aspects, but just make sure that it helps achieve your business goals, of course. Next, in terms of pricing automation, basically a pricing software is a tool that looks at the price of a product across the web and will make pricing adjustments on your website for you directly based on competitors and preset parameters. So obviously it's very helpful if you're a large e-com site with hundreds or thousands of SKUs. You don't want to go in and have to do that manually, but just think of a few questions before going in and picking up any of these softwares around the pricing of that software. Will that fulfill your needs? Is it compatible with any existing systems that you have in place? And is it future-proof, basically? Will it be compatible with new versions of your own product, your own website next year, for example? And then the final point here would just be around how much time do you need to invest into the pricing software. So do you need to be self-sufficient on it, or do you need to work with a pricing software company? And when it comes to the referral and loyalty programs here, I think here, again, pricing is key, and I think I've said this probably 6 times by now, but really that's kind of the main thing. You know, what can you afford for your marketing operations there? And then what is the minimum commitment for loyalty programs? There are contracts that are available for a monthly plan if you need to be very flexible and agile. But also think of your target market, the nature of your business. These tools can be either a one-size-fits-all, or they can be very kind of specific, very niche, like SaaS only, B2B only, etc. And of course, you'll need to make sure that the best solution for optimizing your partner program lets you collect, compile, and compare detailed reporting data so that you can actually get insight from your loyalty programs. So kind of the analysis side of things should definitely be front of mind here too. So make sure that you get as many of those items ticked off when you looked at these software as well. And here you'll notice that there is one pillar that we did not mention, which is paid media management, of course. As this is our space and primary area of expertise, we'll get a bit more in the weeds here on how to automate this pillar. So I'll now hand over to my dear colleague, Koen Diepenhorst from the product team here at Marin Software to dive deeper into this aspect of automation, thanks to our upgraded platform, Marin One. Koen, over to you.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Katie. So there are many features that Marin offers that can help automate tasks and shorten optimization time. We're going to go through a few, but know that there are many, many more. We want to cover three main problems marketers often face that result in three categories of solutions that Marin can help you with. First of all, as a marketer, I want to make sure that I set optimal bids, targets, and budgets. In this section, we'll cover three optimization features that you can use, and so we'll cover that in the category optimize. Then second is I want to make sure that my team does not lose time on repetitive tasks. Again, we'll cover three Marin features in this category, and we'll group them under automate. And finally, Greg will cover three features around analyze, basically responding to, I want to limit the time spent on reporting. And so from the optimized perspective, we're going to look at custom modifiers, budget pacing and allocation, as well as social rules. So let's look at custom modifiers first. Custom modifiers, as a marketer, you may wonder how you can let external factors be taken into account into the auction. And Marin custom modifiers can be used to incorporate external data into the auction. You can think of things like weather signals, but also price competitiveness, the stock level, or lead time, for example. Imagine, for example, lowering your bids where you're close to running out of stock, while increasing your bids to clear where you have a lot of stock. Many of our clients set the desired values for these in an automated way. We'll revisit dynamic campaigns and dimensions for that later on, but nothing really stops you from making manual changes either. These kind of adjustments can be very specific at, for example, the keyword or the product group level, or at a more global level at the campaign or group level, for example. It really depends on what kind of data you have available and what kind of level that data varies at, really. We have a very nice case study on this, on the use of custom modifiers on our website, where they were used to bid more on keywords that had a long lead time. So basically where in the short term, maybe you don't see many conversions coming in, and basically they had data that you could send us signaling that more conversions were coming over time. And so we could take that into account in the auction. So that's custom modifiers. Another question that we often get is, how can I make sure I spend my budget in the most efficient way? And then very importantly there for a marketer as well, without under or overspending. Marin budget pacing allows you to see how you are currently trending towards a monthly spend goal, showing you where you are underspending or overspending. Now this becomes very powerful as it works across publishers and channels. And so you can actually just recreate the normal budget lines that you work with within Marin to keep track of how you are trending. Marin budget allocation then actually goes one step further and will intervene where there's a discrepancy between your target spend and the current spend trend towards the end of the month, let's say. It will reallocate spend to better performing campaigns while also allowing you to set priorities. And so again, for someone with an overall budget, this can be very convenient. It allows you to set a priority, for example, for your brand campaigns, so that we maximize spend allocated to that. And then afterwards, we try to spend as much as we can on your non-brand activity in the most efficient way possible. Again, we have a nice case study on this as well, where one advertiser noted that they reduced their time spent on budget management by 50%. And given how important budgets are for marketers, you can imagine that that is quite a nice time saving. And then finally, in this section, you can leverage rules for your social amplification. Marin social rules allow users to optimize their campaign settings based on both Facebook data and third-party data. So again, you may be using a third-party tool as your source of truth. You can then ingest that data into Marin and run your rules for optimization based off of that. And then you can think of updating manual bits based on the performance of individual ads. You can also think of adding budget or removing budget from campaigns based on their performance. What I really like with social rules is that they can be metrics. The frequency can be metrics based. So rather than saying execute this rule every day, for example, you can say execute this rule every 100 clicks. And so it stays very much on top of your social campaigns. And it's a great way of automating something that you would probably spend quite a lot of time quite frequently on. So that is the optimize section, and then we'll move over to automate. So our sort of second category, where again, we'll cover 3 Marin features. The first will be dynamic campaigns. Then we're gonna look at scheduled actions. And finally, we'll look at message booster. So dynamic campaigns allow you to automatically build and maintain campaigns, groups, keywords, and creatives for your entire product catalog without essentially lifting a finger. Thereby saving you a tremendous amount of time and effort. This kind of automation can actually be very well combined with the custom modifiers that we just discussed before. If in your product feed you have the stock level, the price, or the price competitiveness, you can then have dynamic campaigns load that into Marin on dimensions, which Greg will come back to in a second. That you can then leverage in custom modifiers. And so you'll have automatically built campaigns that include creatives with dynamically included prices and stock levels, like you can see on the slide over here, for example, while also increasing and decreasing your bids, for example, based on price competitiveness for a particular product. So it's a great way of automating your advertising for your product catalog. And making sure that everything is up to date on a very daily basis. The second one that we will look at is how to schedule actions ahead of time. Marin scheduled actions allow you to do this. These allow you to easily schedule launching or pausing of your ads, campaigns, groups ahead of time, even when you're not necessarily working, which is obviously quite nice. For example, you could imagine having a weekend sale on. You could then schedule your sale creatives to come online at midnight on Friday evening, and your normal creatives, let's say, to be paused, and at the same time already schedule the next scheduled action for Sunday evening for your sale creatives to come back offline, and your normal creatives to be reactivated. Marin scheduled actions are really powerful because they work across publishers and channels, and because you can schedule multiple actions at the same time. Meaning for one object, for example, for one campaign, you can create an entire schedule of when it's active and when it's paused, which is quite a nice time saver, obviously. And then finally, you can boost your post via your organic page post via automated rules. And we call this feature Message Booster. And imagine that you want to give your organic page posts some paid amplification in a more automated way. Message Booster allows you to do this by specifying campaign criteria ahead of time, including, for example, a campaign duration in number of days, a fixed budget, as well as a target audiences. And these settings are then used when your rules trigger an organic page post to be sort of deserving of some amplification. You can specify those criteria. So you can imagine, for example, that every page post that has an engagement rate of more than 10% would automatically be sponsored with your preset campaign settings. This allows you to automate the regular amplification of page posts, leaving you time and focus for more tactical and potentially lower funnel social media activities, let's say. And so that is the end of the automate section, and then we'll take it to analyze, and I hand you back to Greg.
Perfect. Thanks, good. So yeah, continuing here, I'll just take us through the analyze section of our webinar. We'll go through dimensions, web query reporting, and Marin's insights feature before we wrap up with Q&A. So really here, just want to go into how can we evaluate multiple dimensions within Marin. So really, dimensions are what I would call and what I call and what I tell my customers and prospects, Google labels on steroids. So that way, you know, it's very clear what that allows you to do by allowing you to monitor your account outside of that traditional account structure constraints. It allows you to tag values or labels to your objects in your account without having to kind of worry about it being on just a single account, such as just in Google, for example. This will apply to all of the accounts that you link to your Marin account. The interesting thing here is that you can actually use automation here to automatically tag those dimensions to your different objects, and you can base that off of naming conventions or performance criteria as well, if you wanted to. I think the interesting thing here is that these values will then trickle down to the lower levels, and so you'll be able to report, as you can see here, from the keyword level, even if you were tagging dimension values at a higher level within your account structure. So it's then easy really to filter or roll up those dimensions across publishers within your account, and you can even pivot up to 3 dimensions here, and if needed, you can add in even a device column to really drill into the data that you have for your account. A quick example, as you can see here, is that you can group together all of your brand campaigns, all of your non-brand campaigns across different publishers. So say Google, Bing, Apple Search Ads, Amazon, etc. And that will give you that kind of overview of how this is performing, how your brand campaigns or non-brand campaigns are performing. So yeah, basically think of dimensions as a labeling system. As Koen mentioned earlier with the dynamic actions, dynamic campaigns, this can be kind of, the tagging can be automated through that dynamic campaigns piece, and it can be used for bidding purposes as well. So that's not only a reporting tool, but also available for bidding, as mentioned, and also very useful when it comes to tracking purposes. If you wanted to have your campaign name feed back up into Google Analytics, you could add a dimension to kind of take the place of a value track within your tracking template, and you can automate that process entirely with Marin as well. So yeah, as mentioned, we do have the ability here to tag these automatically within your account too. In terms of looking at really easing your reporting setup, everyone is familiar with kind of the classic report creation, where any grid view that you have, you'll have a button to be able to export that data, probably schedule it and send it to an email as a kind of CSV or Excel doc. This is kind of a push reporting method where that data is sent from the app to you directly or to your inbox. So you can also set up reports within Marin through what we call web queries, with a good example of a web query being a full year report with dates in the future that will then automatically add those future dates to your report. So when you think of a web query, that will allow you to create a report in a similar fashion to those kind of grid reports, but instead of it being delivered as a CSV or an email, it will generate a URL that you can then plug into a Google Sheet doc or an Excel doc, and then have the data refresh automatically there. that data will then be kept up to date by that URL. So it's really handy when it comes to looking at long timeframes or timeframes that evolve, or if you want to look at a rolling, last 7 days, last 30 days, etc. The other advantage here is that it's a kind of set up once approach. So once you've set up all of your different web query reports, you're just able to leave them run, and they'll be updated on the schedule that you've assigned them, for example. If you want to go a step further here, you can actually use this for account management and use Google Sheets to then send bulk upload files to an email address or an FTP location here to kind of make changes to your account that way as well. And finally here, how do you kind of streamline your performance insights? So we also provide recommendations based on all the data that we have coming into your account based on the publisher accounts that you'll have linked to Marin. We've built our own performance insights, and these insights allow you to easily identify areas of opportunity to optimize your account further. We currently have 35 plus of these insights across multiple publishers, across channel, with 13 of them being a kind of one-click implementation insights. So kind of a very actionable insight process there, where if you're happy with what it's suggesting, you can just go ahead and apply that directly. They also have a lift estimation, which is very handy in terms of prioritizing the performance insights that you'd want to use first, so that you can know which ones you want to apply to your account sooner. So a few examples here would be around keyword expansion, identifying duplicate keywords, disapproved ads, any opportunities that you might have on your bid strategies for different publishers, from Google to LinkedIn and Apple search ads, and just being able to get quick wins on new accounts there directly from your Marin One interface. So those features we think are really helpful in terms of spending less time on reporting. All in all, Marin One is the best way to automate your advertising campaigns, and it will save you time, headache, and money. So as mentioned as well, we integrate seamlessly with many of the other automation tools we discussed earlier, namely around email, organic social media, CRMs, and more. And when necessary, we're happy to set up any custom automations based on your own company's needs as well. So with all this in mind, please reach out to us if you have any questions and would like to get started on streamlining your marketing operations and increasing efficiencies. Thanks for your time, and back to you, Katie.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time that you both have spent working on this and putting it together. We do have a couple of questions, so I'll go through those quickly. Let me see here. The first, I think this would be best for Koen. What are the benefits of utilizing Marin Budget Management versus Google directly?
Mostly that it is cross-channel, so you can create one budget line that spans across, and I don't know if I'm talking to a search marketer or a cross-channel marketer, but even if you're just, because I say cross-channel, but it is also cross-publisher. So say you're running search campaigns and you have a budget line for search, you are probably active on at least Google and Microsoft. You can then create one budget line and make sure that you're spending your money in the most efficient way possible across both of those publishers. It gets more interesting when there are more publishers in the mix, obviously.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Are there any disadvantages of automating processes in marketing? Maybe that's best for Greg.
Thanks, Katie.
Talk about
Sorry, yeah, I was on mute. So
the cons.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think the major drawback in terms of automation is that for it to work well, it has to be set up well. So when it goes wrong, you need to have kind of robust QAs in place to be able to catch those hiccups early on, and just being able to monitor the automation setup. To make sure that you just don't have a bit of a shock on one morning when you come back. So I'd say, automation is very useful. It saves a lot of time, it helps improve performance, but it needs to be set up properly, it needs to be reviewed and QA'd, and then checked and monitored regularly as well. Ultimately, the search landscape evolves so much that depending on who's in your auction, one day you might have different impacts on your account as well. There are also loads of betas that Google releases, which could impact any automation you have in place. So just bear that in mind as well when you're looking at setting up any automation. Just making sure that you make it robust. And Marin is well adapted to help you do that.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, I think guardrails are very important in any automation. So for example, just thinking back to what I presented, Message Booster, like you give a clear limit in terms of like you specify the budget ahead of time. So if in the end the automation picks up an organic page post that you're not crazy about amplifying, actually, at worst you spend the amount of money that you have pre-selected. It's not like it's going to go way out of hand. With budget allocation, there is simply a setting that you can use to allow a sort of maximum change that the automation can make day over day. So again, I think building in those kind of guardrails is quite important in any automation process.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Koen, I think this next question is best for you. Can more than one person work in the Marin tool at a time?
Yeah, of course. We have a nice feature that is called the activity log, where you can keep track of any changes that are being made. So if multiple people are working in the account at the same time, you'll just see all of the changes that everyone is making listed there. And so that's really not a problem.
Awesome. Last question. Greg, how do I track the ROI of an automated software tool?
That's a good question. I think you can track this in several ways. And I'd recommend kind of starting by understanding your pain points, which actions are repetitive. So a bit of kind of what we discussed at the start of the webinar here. Anything that is repetitive or time consuming, and how much ROI is that process generating. Then once you have the automation in place, give it time to take effect before reviewing those tasks, and then you're able to understand how much time it's saving you, how the performance is looking. It's always difficult to kind of compare and do A/B test there because there are so many elements out of your control. But I think that would be probably the most straightforward way of just understanding what returns you're getting from your automation software.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, I appreciate the time both of you spent to put this together. Thank you to everyone that attended and came. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to one of us via email. We also have a survey following the webinar, so we'd love to have your feedback. If there's anything that we missed, we'd be happy to have one-on-one conversations and provide more insights. So just thank you to everyone for coming, and hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.